Hi, everyone. Did you enjoy your lunch? Good. Enjoy your desserts, too. Obviously, you've noticed the big group of students at the back of the room, so I thought I'd try and make this more of an interactive experience. And so I brought our graduating class to come and do massages. So here's how this will work. I won't be offended in the least if you get up during my speak and decide you'd rather go and have a massage instead. Because that's why they're here. So we will have an option here. We have a lot of students, so they will circulate around to your table if you like, and do a massage at your chair. So if you don't decide you want to get up and move, that's perfectly fine. But we also have chairs set up at the back. So at any point in time now or during the break, if you decide you just want to get up and you want to check this out, please feel free to just get up and go on over. Don't be surprised if the students come around and try and coax you into coming and getting a massage, because if you've had massage before, you'll know that once you've had a massage, you're hooked. Okay? So what I'm going to be doing is speaking about massage therapy and the benefits of massage therapy to those people with Parkinson's disease. Before I begin, though, I want to start with a personal story, and John kind of alluded to this. A long time ago, and by a long time ago, I mean a long time ago, 20, 30 years ago, I went to University of Windsor, and I was in the fine arts degree. I know that John didn't say what it was. I purposely didn't tell him, but I have a fine arts degree in theater. So when I was at Windsor, I had this instructor, and his name was Vance. And he, I don't know if anybody knows theater people, but they can be a little bit weird, okay? They can be a bit demanding. And he was a really, really sweet man. And I didn't get a chance to benefit from his experience in my first year, my second year, but I'd heard these rumors. Oh, you want to have Vance Paul. He's a really nice guy. I think he has Parkinson's. So 30 years ago, Parkinson's, I mean, there was a lot of information out there, but not as much as there is now. And so there was this thing that was like Parkinson's, okay, you know. So I can remember having him as an instructor in a class, and he had these mannerisms, or at least I thought they were mannerisms, because remember, this is 30 years ago, and I was 20, and I was naive, and I was self-absorbed. And so he used to do this thing, like we would say things in class, you know, how students put their hands up and they give some information, and we just adored this guy. So, you know, when you're in that environment, you want to please your instructor, right? So we would say things, and he would do this thing that at the time I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was this thing that he did because he was a theater guy, right? So they do things. So he did this thing. He would be listening to us, and he would take a moment, and he would stop, and he would do this thing like this. And I would sit there thinking, oh my gosh, he must really think I've got something important to say, because he stopped. Then he would do this thing, and he would go, and he'd keep walking. And I thought, wow, this makes me feel good. I thought that I had something important to say because he was paying attention. Years later, I realized it's because he was freezing, okay? I didn't know that. I just thought that it was this affectation, this theatrical affectation. So that was my first exposure to Parkinson's. So now we fast forward by another dozen years, and I decide that theater's not going to quite cut it for me, so I should go back to school and do something else. So I become a massage therapist, and part of what we did at Sutherland Chan is we had the opportunity to do a clinic. And I thought, you know what? I just adored this instructor. So I'm going to pick the Parkinson's clinic to do so that I get a chance to learn more about it. And so I did. And it was so fantastic to be able to see what massage therapy could do for individuals with Parkinson's. So now we fast forward a little bit further. I know it's sounding like I'm really old. And so we fast forward a little bit further, and I get a job at Lambton College, and then I get an opportunity to meet John and Bea, and we get that relationship going. And since then, the more and more people that have come in, the more and more I learn about it. And the great thing about this particular condition, because of this one man who, unfortunately he's not with us anymore, but because of this one man who doesn't even know that I do this, that I'm interested in this because of him, I get the opportunity and the privilege of working with people with Parkinson's, either in my private practice or through the student clinic. And so the more I work, the more I want to know. And the more I want to know hopefully means the more that we get to bring to the table, as it were, in the future. So that's what brings me here right now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about massage therapy, because maybe some of you are familiar with it, maybe some of you aren't. How many of you are familiar with massage? How many of you get massage? Okay, that's excellent. How many of you get regular massage? Okay. How many of you wish you got massage? Okay, did everybody else at the back of the room see that? That's the people you want to go around and check out, okay? So massage therapy is, in essence, what we do is we assess and we treat the joints and the tissues of the body. So we have a pretty broad spectrum focus, focusing mainly on the musculoskeletal component. So what we do involves mainly hands-on. We also do some assessment, we do some home care, but the majority of the things that we do and the things that massage therapy is known for is our hands-on. We place our hands on the client and we do a variety of manipulations in order to produce some sort of positive outcome at the end of it, okay? This may involve some of the nerves. So we know that Parkinson's is a neurological condition, so we have the opportunity of working with some of the nerves. This also involves working with the soft tissue, so that would be your muscles, your skin, the connective tissue. Sometimes when we have a limitation, we think that we have a limitation because the joint isn't working, and in some cases that's the case. But in other cases, it's really about the soft tissue, and that's really what our domain is. Okay, that's what we do for a living. The reason we do this, and this is by no means the only list, but this is the majority of the things that we focus on, is we try to optimize health by reducing stress. Okay, so how many of us in this room have stress? Okay, I'm going to ask that again because I don't believe the other half of you. How many have stress? Oh, good. I thought it was just me. All right, so this is something that most people, when they think of massage, they think of stress reduction. So you compound that with having a neurological condition where you're going to have other elements of stress. And we tend to think, oh, it's just for stress reduction. Stress is real. And I'm sure most of you know that by now. Stress is real. Stress has a very real impact on our psychological nature as well as our physical nature. And so that's one of the things that we do. We try to optimize people by reducing their stress. We also try to reduce pain levels. How many of you have pain related to your Parkinson's? Okay. How many of you who don't have Parkinson's have pain? Whoa, wait a second. What conference am I at? Okay. So again, hopefully everybody at the back was taking note. Lots of people in pain here. So we focus on pain as well. We try to also prevent physical dysfunction. So my philosophy on care is that rather than wait until it's broken then fix it, what I want to try and do is look at where you're at right now and prevent that from getting worse. Okay, so some of you may think, I don't know whether massage can really benefit me with my Parkinson's. You know that Parkinson's is a progressive condition. So what we want to try and do is prevent some of those stages from getting worse and optimize your ability to function on a day-to-day basis. Okay? Common, pardon me, but I know that I'm preaching to people here who already know what the common symptoms are, but it's just that I can make a tie through here. So tremors are a common symptom. These tremors can either be resting tremors, they can be tremors that occur with some types of activity. They can be really, really fatiguing to the individual who has them, particularly for those people who have more, not just tremors, but have dyskinesia. So I've got a client who has really extreme dyskinesia, and so she always has a lot of fatigue in her muscles. She always has a lot of muscle tone, and it really causes her distress that she has this much of discomfort. And when I work with her, she has an immediate reduction in her symptoms afterwards. And this is really always profound to me, that that massage has always been thought of as having some kind of only impacting on making you feel good, but then having an impact on something with neurological symptoms like this that does progress. We have slowness in movement. So slowness in movement also has the opportunity to cause falls or impairment in balance on top of that. And then rigidity. So remember back when I spoke about my favorite instructor, Vance, and the other thing that he used to have as well was this facial expression, which at the time, I just thought that he was deep in thought. Because remember, I was naive, I was 20, and I was self-absorbed, right? So I thought, the look on his face meant that he was really, really interested in what we had to say. And I'm sure he was. But it wasn't until years later that I realized that this was part of his presentation of his symptoms. This was his mask. And I didn't fully realize that, and it didn't stop me from caring for him, but I just didn't realize that. I didn't know. And years later now I can look at that and say, oh my gosh, what an idiot. I should have known this. And there were so many other people who just didn't know that either. Other symptoms, you might have pain, impaired sleep. So how many of you don't sleep well? Okay. How many of you who have partners that sleep with you don't sleep well? Okay. All right. So impaired sleep. We know that sleep does what for us? Sleep is the time at which allows us to rest and repair. So if we are not getting an adequate amount of sleep, then we're not in that cycle where we get a chance for our bodies to just relax and for it to go through its repair cycle. So if massage can help you relax, get you a better night's sleep, you wake up the next morning, you feel better. It may not last very long, but we're looking at having some kind of quality at some point in time, okay? Poor posture, that was alluded to earlier. So this makes certain muscles short, it makes other muscles lengthened, it leads to pain, it leads to poor balance. What massage tries to do is to stretch that out and open those structures up to help with the posture. We've already had lots of people talk about the impact on the overall quality of life. And I echo what the previous speakers did in saying that yes, the focus is to try and improve overall quality of life, okay? Particularly, for everybody. It doesn't matter whether you are whether you've been diagnosed early with Parkinson's or you were diagnosed later with Parkinson's, you have an expectation of some quality of life. Constipation. This comes mostly with medications, but it is a common side effect, and it's something that people don't want to talk about, okay? We do work to the abdomen to try and move things along, to try and decrease some of the stress. There's muscles there too, right? It's not just about what your colon is doing, it's about what the muscles are doing in the surrounding area. So what we try and do is improve the function of the bowel, okay? So that's another thing that massage therapy can assist with. The fact is that if I polled every person in this room, we would have a huge long list of potential symptoms that people are experiencing. So I've not chosen to focus on all of those, just the ones that significantly impact on what massage therapy can actually assist with, okay? So now we come to the research. So I get this email. Will you do this speak? And I said, sure, I'd love to do this speak. And in my mind, I'm thinking there's got to be some research that I can pull out. So I look around and I look around, and I get a friend of mine who is a PhD nurse, and she looks around, and there is surprisingly little research. I was stunned. I just made an assumption. I have no excuses now because I'm older, but I made an assumption that because this condition's been around for a long time and there's all kinds of research being done, that there was research being done about massage therapy. And I was surprised to learn that there was very little research that was actually done that pertains to the effects of massage therapy on Parkinson's disease. There are many pilot studies. These are low sample sizes, so they did very small groups, maybe 12, 15 people, and they only looked at it over maybe a 6-week period of time. Well, over 6 weeks, we all know that 6 weeks in a condition that could last 30, 40 years is not really a long time to figure out is this helpful or not at all. Okay? So that was one thing that I learned. The other thing that I learned was that the research to date, however, has shown, even with this small sample size, it has shown that there were reports in better sleep, and it's not just my anecdotal of me, talking to my clients and talking about that, but they did say there is actually improvements in sleep. So this is a good thing. So we realize better sleep, we have better function, we have better quality of life. We all know, regardless of whether we have Parkinson's or not, is if I get a really unproductive or disruptive night's sleep, I don't feel that great the next morning. And if I have to function on that, I start to get pooched by lunchtime, okay, and I need a nap. And so we already know now that, hey, massage therapy can improve sleep. We also know that it improves relaxation and stress reduction. We already knew that. The research already has shown that it improves stress and improves levels of relaxation in anybody. But they specifically looked at, does this affect Parkinson's? And yes, it does. Okay, so if you're thinking to yourself, I don't know whether, because we tend to focus on the symptoms that are most presenting for us. So if we look at and say, well, maybe I do have some stress. Maybe if the stress is addressed, then maybe the other symptoms won't seem to be as significant when you feel better. Okay? They also showed motor and movement ability improvements. And I know that I have spoken to my own clients that I treat with Parkinson's, and they have reported that they have improvements as well. And they report those improvements immediately. And sometimes I can actually see it immediately. What I see before that 1-hour treatment and what I see after that 1-hour treatment are two different people. Some of that could be the medication. I don't know. In some cases, I can say it wasn't the medication because I know that they weren't, that wasn't their time yet to take the medication, so we had to time the appointments. And I know that was the case. And for the client to say, I move better, I can get on and off the table with these, things that I can actually visually see that's like black and white, tells me that there's something to this massage thing, okay? Energy, so better energy. That goes along with the sleep as well. So if we have better energy and we sleep better, then we feel better and we have better quality of life. We have more things that we can do. And then that takes us to our quality of life. Everybody's determination of quality life is different, okay? My definition of quality life is doing the things that I want to be able to do that means something to me. And that's going to be different for everybody. And if it means that we have one person who allows them to go bowling or it allows them to go and play golf that one time a week that they previously didn't get a chance to do, and that makes them happy, then that's quality of life. It's different for everybody. So then the qualitative comments, so these are the ones where they just went around and they spoke to people afterwards, and they didn't sort of, they didn't have an opportunity the other things used things like a visual analog scale about their pain levels, or they journaled their sleep, their levels of sleep. So qualitative comments are things where, it's just so, how did you feel afterwards? How are you feeling? And people reported that there was improvements in well-being and self-confidence. Self-confidence. I thought that was kind of strange, because self-confidence is usually something that comes out of doing something and feeling better about doing it, and I never thought that self-confidence went with Parkinson's, and certainly not that massage therapy would be responsible for producing a feeling of self-confidence. Kind of strange, eh? So from my observation, and again, this is solely from my observation because I've already told you what the studies do. So from my observations, I have noticed a reduction in tremors. They may not have been a permanent reduction in tremors, but they were a reduction nevertheless, or it was something the client said, I had a reduction in tremors for X amount of time. So that allows that sense of, I don't have, the muscles aren't moving out of control. I maybe have a reduction in pain as a result of that. Maybe I'm not as self-conscious about it because I'm not having the tremors as much, and these are important. Improved mobility, and again, that's observation-wise as well as clients reporting that. A better ease of movement. Many times when I've spoken to clients who have had it, it may have only lasted a few hours depending on the level of Parkinson's that they had, or it may have lasted days. I've had clients that said, yeah, I was good for a good 10 days afterwards, and then my symptoms, I noticed that my symptoms started to return, okay? And part of that was maybe there were other variables that don't relate to massage therapy at all, okay? Decreased muscle tension. So with muscle tension, other symptoms that can come up, particularly I've noticed with Parkinson's, would be things like upper body tension or neck tension, neck-shoulder tension. That can lead to things like headaches, like tension headaches. So if we can reduce some of that tension, we can reduce some of those additional levels of pain. Just talking about pain a little bit, pain, everybody has a different description of pain as it relates to them, right? So, but when we're looking at pain coming from various sources, and some of that could be neurological pain, some of that could be musculoskeletal pain. So in the realms of musculoskeletal pain, we deal with these things called trigger points. And what they are is they're hyper-irritated spots in muscles that refer pain at a site distal or proximal, so either up or below the site of the pain. You press on that area and the pain gets worse temporarily, and then it gets better. And so many people have trigger points and don't know they have trigger points. They just have this pain that goes up into their head or down their arm or down their leg or down their back, and they can make an assumption that it's something other than a trigger point, and when in a lot of cases it could just be a trigger point. And that's something that massage therapy can work on, particularly given that one of the key features of a trigger point is muscle tension, is a lot of muscle tension, and that's a key feature of Parkinson's as well, related to the rigidity. So it goes in hand in hand. General improved in function and overall sense of well-being. So I always ask clients, how long did this last for? Just out of curiosity, not because I was doing any particular study on this, but I'm always curious as to how long it lasts. So of the people who get massage in this room who have Parkinson's, and not to say that the caregivers, I'll talk to you later, but the people who have Parkinson's who get massage, how many of you have it last a few hours? The benefits last a few hours, okay? How many of you have benefits that last a day? Okay. How many of you have benefits that last a week? A week? Okay, good. We're still the same person. So I haven't reached the threshold yet. Couple weeks? So that's the threshold. A month? Month? Okay. So again, it's going to be different for everybody. I've spent a lot of time talking about the benefits of massage to those with Parkinson's, but I also recognize in this room that there are a number of people here who are significant others or caregivers of someone with Parkinson's. And I want to spend just a little moment speaking to that, because people who care for other people have their own level of stress. They have their own level of muscle tension because they have to assist. And they can still benefit from the things that I'm talking about with Parkinson's as well. So stress is still stress, trigger points are still trigger points, headaches are headaches, okay? And we spend sometimes a lot of time caring for other people, and we forget about ourselves. And I say this pointedly to the caregivers in the room, is look after yourself. Okay? However you do it, whether it be massage or physical therapy or you chiropractic or exercise or yoga or tai chi or something along those lines, whatever it is you do, look after yourself. Okay? So the aims of a massage treatment, obviously this is going to depend upon the stages. So there are varying stages of Parkinson's, and so some people will benefit differently depending on how severe their symptoms are. So I've just put this in a broad category because it really is dependent on that, and what may benefit one person may not benefit another. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try it. It just means that you need to be open to the idea that because Joan said that it works for her doesn't mean it might work for you, or Joan says that it doesn't work for her doesn't mean that it's not going to work for you or provide some level of whatever it is you're looking for, okay? So when we approach massage, we look at what is it we try to accomplish as therapists, and this is what I'm talking about with our aims of treatment. So we're trying to reduce the stress, and this would be dealing with the tremors and dealing with overall stiffness that leads to a level of tension within the body that can create levels of pain. We want to try and improve tissue mobility to try and keep you functioning, keep you mobile, help with gait, help with balance, okay? Keep you in overall function in your home. And then we try and look at joint mobility. So whenever we look at mobility, we look at musculoskeletal, so our muscles, and then we also look at the joints themselves. So my elbow joint versus my biceps and my triceps. Okay, so we would look at that as a package and try to improve the overall function of all of those structures. We also try to improve the activities of daily living. So it may be that you come in and say, you know what, I'm just not sleeping well. Okay, that's going to be one of our goals, is to try to help you improve your levels of sleep. Okay? Reducing pain and reducing rigidity. Notice I've not said eliminate. Okay? I'd love to be able to stand here and say, you know what, massage therapy is the bee's knees. Okay? It does everything. It slices, it dices. But it doesn't, okay? And like everything else that we've heard about today, our focus is to try and make things a little bit better for you. And everything that you do, you pick and choose what's right for you, okay? So we talked about how many of you have experienced massage and how many of you would like to experience regular massage. So just as I'm looking at the back there, so how many of you have had a massage today? How many of you would get massage again? See, I can stop talking now, right? I've sold it here. And it's something that John had said earlier. We do have an arrangement where if you have Parkinson's, because we recognize that with any long-term illness, there is a financial aspect or potentially a burden that goes along with that, having to purchase things to make your life easier at home. And so we set something up with the Lambton College Clinic where we, if you are part of the Parkinson's group and you've identified yourself as such, then you can come in and get a massage once a week in our clinic. And I extend that because I really, really, really believe in what we do to help. And we have regulars that I'm given to understand also agree with that as well, and they come very regularly. And they get a little cranky when we're off for the summer. I'm really sorry, but we need a break. But they are the first ones back in September, which tells me that we must be doing something right, that massage must be doing something right, okay, cost aside. So if you come for a treatment, a number of you haven't had massage before, so I felt that we should maybe talk a little bit about what to expect. So when you come for a treatment, whether it be in the clinic or you go to a registered massage therapist, what will happen is that therapist will sit down with you and will go over a health history, which will be confidential. and they will ask you questions, and they will do a physical assessment to try and determine what exactly reasonably we can work on, okay? What seems to be something we could help you with. Then what happens is we discuss with you the plan. So the plan is we're going to, based on what you've said and based on what we feel we can actually do for you, we're going to come up with a plan of treatment. And then what happens is you, as a client, gets an opportunity to have a chat about that and say, yeah, I like that part of the treatment, or I don't want that part of the treatment. I don't think that's going to help, or yeah, I'll give that a shot. Okay? And then you get an opportunity to consent to that treatment. So we don't just do stuff because, okay? We try to get your input from it so that ultimately we can meet your needs in reducing the symptoms that we've previously discussed. We give you privacy. I know I've just said that, and yet there's therapists walking around, but obviously you can see that nobody's taking their clothes off, right? Okay, just checking back there. So under normal circumstances, you would go into a private cubicle or you would go into a private room and you would be instructed on what position to get on the table, and the therapist would leave the room and allow you to disrobe and get underneath the sheets so that you have that level of privacy afforded to you. Some of you may say, what if I need help? You know, what if I need help? I can't get onto the table by myself. You know, will my therapist abandon me or will they help me? Obviously, that's going to be a discussion that you have as part of your consent, that the therapist then will say, yeah, I will agree to help you undress if you need it. I will agree to help you get on and off the table if you need that. In the event that you can't get on and off the table, we will come up with a different position. So specifically today, we chose, even though we have massage tables at the back, we chose to have it set up so that you could be massaged at your table or in a seated position. And that's an alternative as well. Just because there's a massage table there doesn't necessarily mean you have to climb on top of it. You could have it in a different position, okay? And that's something the therapist would discuss with you. We use a variety of different techniques. So I know I've talked a little bit about trigger point therapy, but the most common techniques that people know are the general Swedish manipulation. So those are the ones where you're doing some gliding, the things that you typically see on television. We do that as well. But other things that we do as well is more related to stretching, is more related to mobilizing the joints, is related to improving flexibility in the tissues, decreasing muscle tone or tension, and improving overall how the tissue feels, the circulation of the tissue. This can be done either at the back, and of those of you who have had massage already here, you can see that we're doing that through the clothing. So we can do that through the clothing. And the more traditional massages, the treatment is being done with skin-on-skin contact in order that we can actually get to some of the tissues, but it's not mandatory. So if you're somebody who's sitting there thinking, I think I'd like to try massage, but the whole thing about taking my clothes off isn't working for me, then we can do some things through the sheets, get you comfortable with that, and then know that you have choices, okay? But you want to try it, but you got to have choices. We also work within your pain tolerance. This is not a, I will do things and wait until you scream, and then I'll take that as a sign to stop. Okay, this is let's talk a little bit about pain levels ahead of time, so that way, again, we're talking about prevention. We want to make sure we're not getting you to the point where you're like, yeah, that really hurt, I don't want to go back. We want to try and identify as we go along, are you okay with this? Are you comfortable with this? Because to every therapist, every new body that comes in is a new body. So what may work for one person or what might be okay for one person may not be okay for another person. So we have to recognize that and we have to speak to that. And so this is where it becomes very individual, okay? And this is where we ask for you to participate in that, because we're not mind readers either. So the other part of this is that the treatment can also include exercise provision. And I know that there's been some discussion already about exercise with respect to inclusion in the occupational therapy or the gait and balance component of it. But the other exercises that we would focus on would be to try and improve that mobility and improve that flexibility so that you have the balance and you have the abilities to continue to function in what you're doing. It may mean that you have to do some homework. And again, you're the one that has the invested interest in doing the homework because you live in your body 24/7. Okay? So a therapist, though, should be able to say, you know what, I'm going to give you a stretch, or I'm going to give you a strengthening activity that will help with this issue that we're talking about. This can also include the use of hot and cold. I don't think anybody's talked about hydrotherapy at this point in time, but we also prescribe use of hot and cold. So it's common, you know, if you have a bit of an ache, you put some heat on it. You sprained your ankle, you put some cold on it. But what we do is look at that and say, if we take that one step further and not just use it out of necessity and say, let's use this as a prevention. If I can put some warmth on, if I know that when I get out of the shower I am more flexible, doesn't it stand to reason that if I used a bit more warmth or heat during the day for short periods, I might have a bit more flexibility, I might have a greater ease in doing the stretches that my practitioner gave me. So we look at those. An early research study, which I did come across, again it was a small pilot because that's all I was able to find, was showing that exercise in the water could reduce freezing of gait, which I thought was really interesting because many places have exercise programs. The YMCA does, you know, where they have the floor that raises and you do some activities in the pool. And so it's really interesting if they start to look at this, there's opportunities there to say, you know, for those people who want to get some extra level of exercise and get the benefit of having an impact on one of their symptoms with Parkinson's, then this may be the route. It's still in its early stages now, but they're optimistic that this could be of benefit to us. So other things that I didn't include in this, the therapist will determine the level, the position that's comfortable. So positions that you could be in might be a seated position, just like we're doing at the back of the room. Maybe it's just a matter of pulling up a chair. So, because we don't want to make it so that by the time you get on the table, you're exhausted, and then you have to think about, oh, I just had a nice relaxing massage, and now I have to get up off the table. Seated, we could have you in a face-down position. We could have you in a face-up position. We could have you laying on your side. Maybe you don't, want to have your face in a face cradle for various reasons. And so there's opportunities. I've also gone to people's homes, and I have done massages while people have been in their wheelchairs because it's been too difficult for them to move. And then all I do is I just work with what I got. I go, okay, well, this is what I got to work with. Let's get creative. This is what I've got to work with. So it doesn't have to be in the traditional way that you see it. So if that has been maybe holding you back from getting a treatment, that might be another thing to consider, is to talk to a therapist who will have that creativity to come up with something that works well for you. Music. So I know that there's a study in the paper about music in your folders about how music impacts. Traditionally, massage therapists versus maybe physio or occupational therapy or chiropractors, we traditionally put music on because one of our goals for treatment has always been relaxation, regardless of whether we're treating you for something else or not. So you have the choice of music. Say you think, you know what, I want the overall package. I want to feel the best I can possibly feel at the end of that, and I really, really, really want to listen to this music by Michael Bublé. Okay. If that's what works for you, then bring it on in and we'll play it for you. Okay? But music can be a component of that as well. Some therapists choose not to use music, but it's your right to ask. Oil, lotion, or cream. Here today we're not using that much, but typically oil, lotion, or cream, some kind of lubricant is used in order to help the gliding experience. It doesn't have to be used for that. But that's something that your therapist will ask you whether you have any allergies. Assuming you don't have any allergies, then they might propose a certain lotion or cream to perform whatever it is they need to do. The other thing as well is that some of you may have benefit plans, and you may not even realize that massage covers some of the cost of massage is covered by that. It won't be covered by the cost at the clinic because the treatments are being done by students, but your plan might actually cover it. And I got to tell you something, it's a little bit of a secret because the insurance companies don't want to advertise ways in which they can spend the money you've already paid for them to spend. So it's something that's worth looking into. If you want to have treatment, is to look at your plan and say, does this get covered? If so, how much does it cover? Maybe it covers $400 a year. Benefits are only beneficial if you're using them. Okay? So if you want treatment, you've got part of this in your package. You've got the whole PowerPoint in your package. And so on the very last page, I've given you the contact for the Lambton College massage clinic. Just if you are a person who has Parkinson's, please identify yourself on either the email or the phone message so that our work study student knows that you are part of our Parkinson's program. Lauren at the back of the room, she's our other instructor. She's just putting her hand up now. She has business cards as well. So if you're interested, you can just put your hand up and she'll bring you around a business card. And that way it's got all the information on there as well if you'd prefer to do it that way. If you are not in Sarnia, if you're not one of the lucky ones that's in Sarnia, then I've given you the other two ways in which you can contact that. So the College of Massage Therapists of Ontario, in order to ensure that you are getting a registered therapist, when you click on to the www.cmto.com, at the top of the page, the byline says Find a Therapist. So you're going to click on that, another box will come up, and you can just put in your city. You don't even have to put a name in, you can just put the city in, press submit, and it'll list all the massage therapists that are in your city. Okay? The other thing that you can do is go to the Registered Massage Therapy Association of Ontario, and they have a service that's rmtfind.com, and again, they will have that as well. And this is a great opportunity. Most therapists, all therapists learn how to work with Parkinson's as part of their training. It's just a matter of whether, because of circumstances, whether they have a practice that has a lot of massage, that has a lot of people with Parkinson's or not in it. I just was fortunate, and I say fortunate because I truly feel that I'm fortunate to be able to work with individuals with Parkinson's because it's a great learning experience for me, and I get to help other people, and it's very it's joyful for me to be able to do that. So, does anybody have any questions about massage therapy that I haven't answered, or? Yes?
Thank you. My father, I think, would really benefit from this, but he's very thin, and he's got no muscle. You can, his whole backbone, you know, you can outline.
Sure.
He's very thin. Does that have an impact on what you can do?
No. What it comes down to is it's even though there has been some, from what I'm understanding, you're saying there's been some muscle wasting, and so there is skin, and trust me, there still is muscle there. What it means then is that the therapist has to be mindful that they're not doing techniques that are going to be causing some discomfort. So then, again, what this comes back to is the discussion at the beginning, and what is available to be worked on, and working within that pain scale. So when we talk about a pain scale, we look at 0 is nothing that I'm inflicting upon you, and 10 is hospitalization. So clearly we don't want to be at that end. And so what a therapist might do is choose to say, we're going to say that I don't want you to go beyond a 5. So a 5 is a point at where it's starting to become uncomfortable for you, and that's going to be different for every person. So if we work closely with the individual and let them dictate what's comfortable for them, then it becomes a safer treatment and something that's more appropriate. There's an opportunity to work on the muscles. There's still an opportunity to work on the tissues. The way in which the techniques are applied might change, but that's the nature of what we do. We don't cookie cut our treatments. You know, we try to organize a treatment that is specific to the person with the needs in front of us. And so I've worked with people that I look at and I think, wow, you know, there doesn't seem to be a lot of tissue here. However, even working within that, there's still things going on in terms of muscle tension. It just may mean that my approach to the tissue has to change a little bit, but not that he won't benefit from it. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, so we have our therapists are still at their stations and anxious to get their hands on you. I'll try not to make that sound so evil. So if you have been, if you've been trying to be polite, don't bother now. Get up, get yourself to the back, and even if you are familiar with massage and you're just like, hey, this is bonus, I'm going to get me a treatment, then try and get yourself a massage before you go. Try and get a card. And I totally understand if it's not for you. What I'm trying to do is speak to the individuals that maybe have been thinking about it, and look at that as another opportunity. We're looking at opportunities. How can we enhance? And this is one of those tools to enhance. And so we'd like you to try and take part in that so that you get an opportunity to experience that which I find very, very beneficial. I'd like to thank you very much.